Don't we all love summer vacation, relaxing, laying out by the pool, barbecues, hitting the beach, doing, well, nothing? Well, how about a summer vacation from your house payments? With SaveWithConrad.com, you can do just that. Reduce your monthly payments by making the equity you built up in your home work for you. You can roll together those high interest rate credit cards into one lower monthly payment and perhaps access some of that newfound equity to turn your house into your dream home with no money out of pocket. And how about this? You get to skip your next two house payments. That's right. You won't have to make your June or your July house payment. You're done until August 1st. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let my team run the numbers for you for free. There's no obligation, and if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. And did I mention we're offering a 3-year guarantee right now? That's right. That means if at any point interest rates improve over the next 3 years, you get a free refi. That's right. No new lender fees from us. So you get to save money now without wasting money later when the rates improve on a whole second set of closing costs. Why not go to SaveWithConrad.com and get a guarantee? Save money now and save money later with your friend in the mortgage business. That's me, Conrad Thompson at SaveWithConrad.com. Shoot me an email at Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Give us a call at 888-425-0105. Or get yourself a quick quote, even talk to a live person right now at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. Let's take a summer vacation from house payments at SaveWithConrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to What Happened When? With the voice of your childhood, Tony Schiavone. Tony, what's going on, man? How are you?
Well, I'm better than some, but not as good as most.
Well, we're hoping that you're going to have a great day today because we're doing something I know that's right up your alley. We're watching some old school wrestling. As a matter of fact, we want you to watch along with us over on Peacock. It's season 2, episode 1 of WWE Old School. That's WWE Old School on Peacock, season 2, episode 1 over on Peacock. It happened 52 years ago today, Tony.
Oh, my God.
This is June 30th of 1973. This is older than me and my wife. It's like real old, Tony. How pumped are you to watch 1973 WWE?
I think it'll be great stuff. I like the stuff from Madison Square Garden. I was watching it a little bit today, earlier, and we can't hear it, but Vince McMahon was doing the commentary, and it was very, very unlike the Vince McMahon and what we know of today, or what we remember, especially from Saturday night's main event when he was the commentator there, and on Superstars as well. So, he was, I guess back then he was doing voiceover for his father. And so it was a little bit different.
We're excited to take you back on a trip to 1973. This card's pretty historic because I believe this is the very first live broadcast by the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. That's
Wow.
the WWWF on HBO, believe it or not. This show aired on HBO. There were 20,987 people in attendance that night in Madison Square Garden.
Uh-huh.
Again, we're watching WWE Old School, Season 2, Episode 1. And as a heads up, Tony, we're going to be starting today, if you're watching along with us on Peacock, at 24 minutes and 43 seconds. I want to repeat that. It's WWE Old School on Peacock. Look for Season 2, Episode 1. And we're going to be starting at match number 3. That's 24 minutes and 43 seconds in. We're going to start today, Tony, with Gorilla Monsoon versus Captain Lou Albano. How fun is that?
That is about as old school as WWWF that you can get. I know that we missed Blackjack Lanza in his match. We're kind of shuttling past that. And we also missed Professor Tanaka, I do believe. And that was the same, I believe, Professor Tanaka, if I'm right, was the same James Bond villain back in Goldfinger, if I remember.
Well, this
Maybe
is going to
not.
be a fun show then. Without further ado, we hope you're ready, locked and loaded. It's WWE Old School, Season 2, Episode 1 on Peacock. We're starting at 24 minutes and 43 seconds. Tony, are you ready on your end?
I'm always ready, Conrad.
You want to give us a countdown?
You got to be ready when you're in pro wrestling. 3, 2, 1, play.
As we're watching this sort of old school feel here, I know that some people don't really like this look where it's largely a blackened arena with a spotlight over the ring.
Well, I
For
love it.
whatever reason, Tony, I really like this.
Yeah, I love it. Always have. Uh, this is the ropes. Are they silver?
I don't know if that's reflecting off of the
I don't know.
camera
I don't know if that's I don't know if that's either or not.
or
But
the lights. I mean, it does feel
right.
like it's reflective tape that
Uh,
in years later maybe they wouldn't do. But as a heads up, obviously this is predating my fandom here.
Yeah,
Captain Lou, I believe at this point is already a full time manager.
yeah, he is. You see that fan? He just walked up to the ringside with
I
his
did.
drink and he said
Yeah.
something, and the policeman said, "Sit down." That's all he did. Today, if you would, as a fan, walk into the ringside, you'd be tackled. There it is again. Just drinking his drink. Look at that. Showing his chest hair, man. He's full on paisano. That's what he is. He's full on paisano is what he is.
Was I supposed to say something
I
there?
didn't know. That's usually when I say something stupid like that, you'll come in and say something.
Oh no, listen, I don't think I'm qualified to use that phrase, so I just leave that to the experts.
Paisano is not a derogatory slur to Italians. Paisano means friend.
Oh, okay. You ain't got to get hot about it.
Well, I'm getting on about. Look at Gorilla Monsoon. God, man, he was. I can't believe how young he looks here. We all age, and believe it or not, and I know you will know that you know this as well as anybody else. We age quickly.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Coach Rosie said it's like Oriental. It is not, Coach Rosie. Go back to smoking another joint. It's nothing like that.
What's wrong with him?
I have no idea. Captain Lou, man. This is pre-Captain Lou before the rubber bands in the face.
Before some LBs too.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Getting ready to announce, and he walked away. To me, it looks like, and I hope you're watching along with us. To me, it looks like that Gorilla Monsoon wants to bust out laughing at any time. I mean,
Yes, I would agree with that.
He's chasing, but he's got that look on his face, like that one of those looks like if Albano does something funny, I'm going to laugh. Which probably he'll end up doing something funny. Of course, Captain Lou, I guess, he made his biggest name with Cyndi Lauper, didn't he? You think of all the
Oh,
things
no
he did?
doubt, for
Yeah,
sure. Yes.
right. Because he ended up being, of course, in Cyndi Lauper's couple of her music videos, and obviously the first WrestleMania, and then of course all that Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling stuff. That was big time for him. Get away from me. That's like my wife. Get away from me.
Oh gosh, listen to you.
Get away from me. Hey, oh, by the way, I got something to tell you.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
I got my tooth.
Oh, look at there.
I got a tooth. Yeah, it took long enough. Got to go back in like 4 weeks to check on it. But
What are they going to do there when they check on it? What do they
they're
do?
actually going to yank it
for
out
durable-
again. They're actually going to yank it out again, kind of reset it, and then it's got temporary cement in it now, and they're going to put.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. So there you go. A little rake to the eyes by Captain Lou Albano. Look at the ring. You know what? That photographer could very well be George Napolitano had his back to us right then.
How you doing?
How you doing, George? I'm doing good. How you doing? Good.
Who's that referee right there? Do you remember that guy?
No. It actually kind of looks like Sonny Fargo from the back, but no. Girl just hit him on top of the head. Oh, Christ.
By the way, if you were able to listen to commentary during the next match,
Yeah.
and we don't have much long in this match. This match actually only goes 2 minutes and 58 seconds.
Yeah.
But during the next match, which is Victor Rivera versus Black Gordman, Vince McMahon is going to remind us to be sure to tune in to Pro Bowling here on HBO.
Wow.
Which is kind of interesting to even think about. Like on some level, I thought, man, isn't it weird to watch wrestling on HBO? And then I hear Vince plug Pro Bowling on HBO, and I'm like, Oh, things have changed.
Boy, have they ever. And I don't think anything has changed as much as television, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. I mean, you know, we get numbers all the time from the cable numbers. And of course, cable is dwindling. It really is. Gorilla just won, I believe, by knocking him out of the ring. But we get numbers all the time, and the cable's dwindling, and the more important things are streaming. And how do you meter streaming numbers? And you know, it's just different. Uh, I like it. Have you cut the cable, or you still have cable?
Oh no, I had DirecTV from 1998 until probably 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. So I was one of the DirecTV's longest standing customers, and then I made the switch to YouTube TV.
With the
I had
NFL
had
package, right?
That's right,
Yeah.
yeah, no regrets. I had had Sling TV before that for when I traveled, and I knew I wanted to watch Dark Side of the Ring, so I was able to snag Sling for that purpose. And then, of course, when I got YouTube TV, I kept Sling really primarily for Dark Side.
Okay. Well, I just really I just wonder in 25 years, of course, I'll be long dead, but in 25 years from now, what television will look like. Um, it's just to me, it's amazing. Oh,
I'm just guessing, but I'm gonna assume it's gonna look like rectangles mounted on the wall.
that is a very, very good guess, Conrad. And that's why you're Conrad Thompson. They're showing it in slow mo, these
The
slaps.
punch that sent Lou Albano almost over the top rope before he finally just turned around, took
Uh,
another punch, and then dove himself.
uh,
A ridiculous looking blade job and a
yeah.
bloody Captain Lou Albano gets punched over the top rope and retreats to the backstage area.
Mhm.
Gorilla Monsoon is victorious by count out here.
Mhm.
And we immediately cut to, man, you want to talk about something that looks like a different era. The microphone coming down from the ceiling, the ring announcer being larger than the boys themselves, the ring announcer actually looking like he could get you a hell of a deal on term life insurance.
Or
It's just a
sell
different
you
time.
or sell you a mattress.
No
One,
doubt.
one of the two.
No doubt.
Hey, you saw the little comment there from our buddy Jason Taylor, who's been with he's at YouTube TV for a long time. Jason, by the way, you may not know, is a big time Lego builder. And oddly enough, he built a Lego version of Harley Cameron in his house.
What does
And
he do with this Lego Harley Cameron in his
I don't
house?
know, but he showed it to me. It was pretty good. Um, they have Legos of everything now. Why not?
Well, thankfully, she is not made out of Legos. We're talking, of course, about Harley Cameron. But if she were,
Mm-hmm.
she would have snapped together pretty nicely over the last couple of weeks. From what I understand, she suffered a broken nose in the ring recently
Yep.
in AEW action and
Yep.
just recently got repaired. But hey, man, what a brutal match that was with the benefit of hindsight. I know they say that, hey, this ain't ballet,
Right.
but you want to talk about some hard hitting stuff. That's pretty much what we saw with Penelope Ford and Megan Bain. What'd you think about Harley Cameron's nose rearrangement? I guess we'll call it.
Well, and I'm not going to show it here. I don't know if she's put it. I don't know if she put it on social media. If you can show it, but she sent me a picture, and it's she's suffered quite. She's had a lot of work done, and her face was all swollen. And I've stayed in touch with her because, as you know, and you got to meet her in Knoxville, she is just a wonderful young lady. Truly one of my favorites, and actually one of Lois's favorites too. Her and Lois really kind of bonded last year when we were in London. And there's a lot to like about Harley, and I hope she gets back very, very soon. She's multi-talented. It's got a great attitude, and yeah, it was. I'm telling you, women's wrestling can be really rough, as you know. Oh, and by the way, that reminds me, and we just put in, I just put in on our Patreon channel the bonus podcast for May, and one of them from Matt M or Matt Malinconico is Sasha Banks against Bailey from
Yeah,
NXT
that's
10
right. The
years ago.
Brooklyn Takeover. That's right. Yeah.
it is worth your, it is, if you haven't watched that match, I invite you to watch along with us because it is spectacular. And it really has changed women's wrestling. I think you mentioned that to me. I was unaware, but it changed women's wrestling from what it was back in the Attitude Era, I guess, to what it is now. So it's worth it. And that's all I got to say about this. This kind of looks like a Rocky Johnson from behind, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting to think. I was just sort of thinking the same thing, like how different it looks. Like, notice, we're not even using elbow pads or knee pads. I mean, this is trunks and boots. This is about as old school as it gets right here.
Yeah, it really is. And they're doing things that, well, I guess we did see somebody go over the top rope in the first match when Gorilla sent Captain Lou over with a big blow. But mostly the stuff's going to stay in the ring here now.
It is interesting how hot this crowd is. Of course, we're watching with the sound down, and I will admit that with the sound down, you would be led to believe that, hey, what we're watching is not really all that exciting. It's at least by modern wrestling standards.
Right.
However, this is a different era. I want to remind you, in the crowd, there are no cell phones. Nobody's got a little computer in their pocket.
Right.
There's no social media.
Right.
And fans are just sitting in the dark. And you've pointed out before, as crazy as this sounds, a well lit crowd is usually a more quiet crowd. People are a little more reserved and, I don't know, cautious, nervous, anxious about being judged or seen or, made fun of or ridiculed or what have you. But if you're in the shadows, fans can just cheer freely.
Right.
So I'm saying all that to say, if you watch this back, Tony, as sort of mundane as it may seem by 2025 standards, at least when it comes to in-ring action, the crowd goes absolutely banana for every single move or exchange. This crowd has their undivided attention on the in-ring work.
Right.
So whenever you can get everyone's focus and people aren't distracted, it's going to make for a more fun viewing experience. So even if we're watching this with the sound down and we think, by Dynamite standards, this is not really that great of a match. Boy, the fans that night, there was no telling them any differently. The crowd is really lit up for this one, Tony.
Yeah, they are. And, there's something else at play here, too. This is something that Arn Anderson talked to me about years ago. I think it's back in the, probably back in the pre-WCW era. We were in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Black Bart wrestled someone. And I can't remember who he wrestled. Sam Houston. Okay. It was the opening bout of the night. It was a house show. And I was there, I guess, as a ring announcer, or maybe I just was tagging along with Arn. And Sam Houston and Black Bart both got juice. Both did a lot of crazy shit, and Arn was pissed off. And he said in a wrestling show, and it's not done anymore, especially not on TV. He said, you build to the main event. The guys that are, as he always called them, the curtain jerkers. He said the curtain jerkers should never do what they did. You build to the moment, you build to the excitement, to the blood, and the main event should do it all. And that's kind of like what they're doing here. They're just doing some basic wrestling stuff. And I guess the main event is going to be, back then the main event was put on before intermission, but the guys early in the card were kind of told, have a great match, but don't do a lot of stuff because you can't take the excitement from the fans away from the main event.
Do you think that's changed in time, Tony?
Oh yeah, there's no question it's changed. Yeah. Hell, I saw. I remember we had a show, and this had to be 2 or 3 years ago, and we did a dark match. And one of the competitors, I won't name his name. I don't think he's no longer with us. I don't think. I got so many wrestlers. Sometimes I'm not so sure who's with us and who's not. Did a dive in the dark match, and I remember thinking, "What the fuck's he doing?" It's a dark match. Dives are going to come up on the main event on the show when we take the air. But to answer your question, yeah, it's changed a lot because, I mean, look what we do now. Look how we put like one of the feature matches on first, right?
Right.
and then maybe another feature match on second. And sometimes the match on first is even better than the main event as far as talent is concerned, as far as notoriety. But yeah, it's changed a great deal. I was at Atlanta Motor Speedway this weekend with an AEW appearance. Really had a very good time. But I was talking to some of the people in NASCAR, and they said, "Boy, NASCAR has changed just like pro wrestling, hasn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess it is. I guess it has really changed, and wrestling has changed." And they asked me, one of the announcers asked me, "How do you like it now? The pro wrestling from when you started doing it in the '80s?" I said, "I like it. I do. It's not the same, but there's something about it that is still the same. Still a ring, still exciting. But I really enjoy what we've got now."
Of course, we're watching Madison Square Garden from 1973. Tony, in your era of wrestling fandom, I mean, obviously we know this predates your involvement in the wrestling business by 10
Mhm.
years or so.
Yeah.
But as a fan in 1973, you were still watching Mid Atlantic, or were you in tune with all the other promotions?
The only way I was in tune with all the other promotions was Pro Wrestling Illustrated or The Wrestler. And that's kind of what made it exciting. You would read reports about what happened in the AWA, what happened in the WWWF, and all the other promotions like Florida Championship Wrestling. And then I've mentioned this so many times, but then Bob Cotter would casually say, "Coming up very soon in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Baron von Raschke." And you go, "Holy shit. I've been reading about him. I really want to see him." And that was good stuff. New faces were really, really good. But the only way I knew, I just watched Mid Atlantic. That's it. And then, of course, later on, like in the '80s, we started getting TBS, right? And Georgia Championship Wrestling or World Championship Wrestling, and started seeing some of that stuff. But the magazines is where you kept up with the business on a nationwide level.
What was your fandom like in '73? I mean, obviously you're a Mid Atlantic fan, but do you remember any angles or tag matches or individual performers or any shows? Like, does 1973 stand out to you as a fan? Because we've mentioned here before on the show, I absolutely love 1997. I love 1989. I really enjoyed 90 and 91. When you think about your fandom, 73, does it stand out at all?
Yeah, well, my fandom really, Conrad, was more like a little bit later on, maybe like 74, 75.
Okay.
That's when it started. And what I remember and the things that hooked me as a wrestling fan were Blackjack Mulligan, Ric Flair, that angle that came a little bit later on. That came in like in 1977 or 78, when Ricky Steamboat first arrived and became the television champion. The Anderson brothers in the tag team championship. Mr. Wrestling Tim Woods with and without the mask. And who else? Well, Ric Flair, Roddy Piper was part of that, and then of course Piper went on to be a commentator with Gordon Soley in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Uh, I Kevin Sullivan. I remember Kevin and the stuff that he did. I remember a very early incarnation of uh, Jake the Snake Roberts. That may probably a little bit later, and Barry Windham, Blackjack Mulligan Jr., as he was known back then. And those were my big things that I really liked and really enjoyed. And we Ric Flair and Greg Valentine is a tag team. Uh, that's why when I started, I was so like my head was in the stars. Here's guys that I watched, during my high school and college years, and now I'm kind of working with them. So it was in many ways a dream come true.
We're watching a match here from 1973. It actually happened as Tony and I are recording 52 years ago
Hmm.
today.
Wow.
When you think about just your life in 1973,
Hmm.
I don't think at this point you'd met Lois, right? What year did you meet Lois?
81.
Okay, so you're still a ways away.
Yeah, I'm a freshman in high school. I'm sorry, I'm a sophomore in high school in '74.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that?
How many bases had you touched by June of '73?
0.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
I was just a redneck punk hanging out with the boys. That's all.
Nothing
We
wrong with that.
we didn't have time for girls. We didn't.
Wow. Didn't have time for them.
No, we were too busy. Playing. We played baseball and we played football and we played in the yard and we were just really into sports and NASCAR. We loved NASCAR. Uh, Although my love for NASCAR really waned. But we were into all that stuff and really just. I guess it wasn't until maybe I was like a junior or a senior that I really started dating girls. You know. Yeah.
Were you you
Mm.
mentioned NASCAR? Were you a Richard Petty fan in that era? I mean, he was kind of the big deal in the '70s, right?
Loved Richard Petty. Yeah. Hated Cale Yarborough. Loved the Allison brothers in a way, Donnie and Bobby Allison.
Davey. Okay.
Yeah, and Davey, of course, his son who passed away, but Bobby's son, Davey. Leroy Yarborough. Where there's some other guys, but Richard Petty was my guy. Really, really was. So that was a lot of fun. NASCAR was a lot of fun back then, and of course they've changed up a great deal. I met some of the drivers on Saturday, and they're all just like kids now. It's like, what the hell? Got all these young kids running around thinking, who the hell is he? Oh, he's a driver. Oh, geez, he just learned to shave.
When NASCAR was really blowing up in the '90s, at the same time that professional wrestling was,
Mm,
were you a fan of Dale Earnhardt, or were
no,
you more a fan of the expansion, I guess, the explosion of NASCAR with guys like Jeff Gordon?
no, I think I was still very much a Richard Petty fan,
Okay.
and I really wasn't a Earnhardt fan. I didn't dislike Earnhardt, and I didn't. The only driver I disliked throughout my career was Cale Yarborough, and he played a real good villain. But no, I'm prior to that. And I went to a lot of races. I went to Talladega. I didn't go to Daytona. I went to Martinsville. I went to Rockingham. I went to Charlotte. I went to Atlanta. Went to a lot of races. But
So wait, would you say that you went to so many races that you might have even caught back then? I mean, since you were such a race fanatic, do you think that you would have qualified yourself as being a real big racist, Tony?
no, I would not. No.
Well, you just said you went to a lot of races. Wouldn't
Yeah,
that
okay.
make you wouldn't that make you like a proficient racist? I'm just
No,
what is
it
the
would not.
proper term for a big race fan?
Big race
You think
fan. The proper term would be a motorhead.
Motorhead? Okay, all
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Now, is that like motor boating?
Nothing like that. Not motor boating what the way you think it is.
Wait, hang on. Is Motorhead like motor boating with head? Because
No,
that sounds like
neither
fun.
one.
I'll be
No,
honest.
no. Motorhead is
A band that did
no, it's
Triple
just
H's theme song.
it's just being a fan of NASCAR to me,
Hmm.
and not any of the derogatory terms that you're trying to throw out there.
Wait, it's derogatory to be a
Of course
race
it is.
fan?
No, to try to sum it up the way you have. Meanwhile, there are female wrestlers in the ring.
Yeah, we're about to see Jan Sheridan team with Joyce Grable to take on the notorious Dottie Downs.
Oh,
And
Dottie.
who could forget Peggy Patterson?
Oh, I know.
These women are like 5'4" tall, but with the hair, they're over 6 foot, you know?
Yeah, those are like almost like Jeff Jarrett bouffants.
I mean, I mean, be honest. Lois was rocking a do like this when you met her, right? I mean, this was the deal.
I don't think it was like that. No, but she had long flowing brown hair.
Did you used to use at any point? Were you a
No,
big?
no, I did not.
You never used hairspray. I
No.
thought everybody did in the '80s use hairspray.
Well, no, I use a little bit of hairspray now when it's airtime.
You're a big hairspray guy.
Well, I'm a little hairspray guy. See right here, as you're looking on our video, see that?
Oh, yeah, you're a
That
small guy, you're not a
see,
big anything.
so
Yeah,
that
that's
that
right.
that falls down in my face, and I have to keep pulling it back. So if I spray it up, I don't have to really worry about it.
So you really prefer more of an updo for yourself?
Yes, an updo would be good.
Well, I was asking because it does feel like in this era, these ladies, if they were if TKO on WWE back then, the following match has been brought to you by Aquanet
Yeah, they would be good girls,
spokespeople.
spokespeople for Aquanet. Absolutely.
This is 2 out of 3 falls we're about to watch here.
Wow. Holy
So not
smoke.
only is it tag team wrestling,
Hmm.
but it's ladies tag team wrestling, and it's 2 out of 3 falls. I'm not saying this to be funny, Tony. I know these days
Yeah.
all professional
Oh,
wrestling is I mean, there's fans of every version, I guess is what I'm trying to get to. Like in terms of saying, it's not like only the female fans are there to see the women's matches. There's a lot of big time male fans who happen to be fans of ladies professional wrestling. But
uh-huh.
I'm curious back here, the target demo for a ladies tag match like this. Do you think this appealed to all wrestling fans? Was it perceived as being more niche, I guess is what you would say. Like where, there's a segment of the audience that's a big women's wrestling fan, or was it designed for the ladies in the crowd, for the children in the crowd? Like, who do you think the target audience was? I ask all of this way because we understand that in the not too distant future, call it 11 years ago, we saw Vince McMahon present, for lack of a better word, it was very diva wrestling. I mean, these
Yes.
were very attractive women, but respectfully, they weren't usually getting a 2 out of 3 falls match. They just didn't, they weren't afforded that amount of time. Now,
Right.
thankfully, we've gotten better and that's all changed. But I'm curious in 1973, and I bring this up because I've seen a lot of old posters, Tony, and it
Hmm.
would list a bunch of matches. And then maybe at the bottom, it might say, plus girls matches or ladies matches or however they phrased it.
Yes.
As best you can remember in 73, how was women's wrestling perceived, Tony?
As a novelty,
Okay.
as something that's not going to draw, but you would look at the card and you say, "Oh, wow, women's wrestling. We don't see much of that. That's got to be very, if nothing else, interesting and entertaining." But it was just a novelty back then. And I think I don't know if you saw the movie about Mildred Burke. I don't
I
know where,
did.
yeah, I don't know where this, I don't know how, if they obviously did have a women's wrestling league. So I don't know how much time and effort these women, I don't know how much they wrestled. I don't know back then, back in the early 70s, if they had a women's wrestling league they wrestled in, or if they just kind of barnstormed with the guys when they went. I remember back when Misty Blue, Cat LaRue, and
Yep.
those girls, they would come in for like 2 months at a time and would go to every house show with the guys. And so but I don't know what the the backstory of women's wrestling in the 70s was, with the exception of all ladies are blonde and all ladies have bouffants.
Speaking of bouffants, we were live earlier today with Double J Jeff Jarrett. And of course, we know we're not too far removed from AEW All In. It's going to be here before you know it. It's going down on Saturday, July 12th. It is indeed going to be AEW's first stadium show here in America. Tickets are on sale now at AEWTIX.com. Jeff has not yet been announced for that show, but he has been announced for Starcast. That's STARRCAST.com. We're going to have panels you can't see anywhere else, and we literally mean you can't see anywhere else. This is not being streamed on Fight. You're going to hear stories that are for the house only. It always guarantees a little more risque, a little more edgy, a little more controversial experience. That's what we're doing this year. We hope you'll join us to see not only those panels, but to get some really unique meet and greet opportunities that we've never offered before, including one that is very much Texas sized. Kevin Von Erich will be in the photo, along with Dory Funk Jr., who could forget Stan Hansen, even John Layfield. It's a who's who of Texas, and we hope that you'll join us at starcast.com. Grab yourself a bracelet. You'll get access to all the different events. If you're platinum, you're guaranteed seating for every panel. That's starcast.com. Tony, it's going to be here before you know it. I'm fired up for the actual card as we get closer, but I am curious, what do you expect out of like the men's casino gauntlet or whatever we're calling it? Like, this is a uniquely AEW match, and you never know what's going to happen, who's going to be in it. And I think, right or wrong, there's always an expectation that there's going to be a surprise or two.
Yeah.
I think going back to the Royal Rumble a generation before, fans are really excited to see, will there be a surprise? Do you think we'll be seeing, and again, I'm not asking for spoilers, but will there be returning people in that gauntlet? Will there be people we just haven't seen on TV in a long time? Will there be new surprises, people we don't expect to be there? Will it be all of the above? What do you expect in a casino gauntlet like this?
Well, what I expect is the unexpected. Now, I can tell you a couple of things. We had one, remember, at Wembley last year.
Yeah.
I had no idea that Ricochet was there. I had no idea that Nigel was going to be in it. So I was every bit as excited as everyone else to see them come out. And so I never know what's going to happen. And I want it that way because I feel like I like to feel that my commentary is like what a fan would say. Okay. And so if a fan's going to be surprised about someone's coming out, why shouldn't I be surprised? So I would think, and I would hope that Tony's got something, that he's got something in his hip pocket, so to speak, that he's going to surprise us with, because he's kind of always done it. And if you've always done it, then if fans expect you to always do it. So I'm sure it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be exciting. The rules, of course, mean if you get the number one position, it means you definitely are going to be in it because sometimes the match could end before your number is called. So that's why getting the first couple of numbers is very, very important. So it should be a lot of fun. One thing I know that the guys who already have a match, like Omega and Okada, Moxley, and Hangman, they're not going to be in it. I know, but you never know who else is going to show up for it. So it's really a pretty novel idea that Tony Khan came up with. So hey, good job.
Good job indeed, and good job is what everybody's going to see. Is what everybody's going to say when they see your great big erection. Thanks to our friends at Blue Chew. All right, guys, let's enter the room. Dick first. Love Blue Chew, and Blue Chew isn't just a tablet; it's a cheat code for your crotch. It's going to get you stronger, harder, and longer lasting. It's almost going to be like somebody gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Blue Chew truly is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. Add some mass to the main mast. Blue Chew's the real deal. We've been bragging about them here on the show for a long time. If you haven't tried them already, I encourage you, go out of your way to try it. What are you waiting for? Guys, this isn't just about performance. It's about legacy or third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. You know, when you lay it down, they're talking about how it gets up, and nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Go discover your options right now at bluechew.com. And how about this for a special deal for our listeners? As always, you get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use the promo code WHW at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Blue Chew's mission is to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head on over right now to bluechew.com for all the details and important safety information. And a big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast.
Upgrade humanity one thrust at a time.
You like that?
What a line. Woo. Hey, these girls are bumping. They
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, it's interesting to see how wrestling, at this point, the women's wrestling that we're seeing in the ring right here doesn't feel all that different than the men's wrestling we saw.
Yes.
Like, the styles are very similar. And of course, we know, as we mentioned earlier, Vince would have a different vision. and the guys are going to continue to turn the volume up, but it doesn't feel like it was just a priority, the women's division that is. So it was just presented much differently. But the gap between the styles of presentation for the men versus the women, it's not that great here in 73. Isn't it weird to see, with the benefit of hindsight, how we sort of regressed as a wrestling society, if you will?
That we regressed.
Well, I mean, from 73 to 93, from 73 to '03, from 73 to 13, like that feels like we're not even giving the ladies near the amount of time, or I
Right.
don't know. It just it's interesting the way things have changed. And by the way, we talked about stylistically the previous match. Hey, no knee pads, no elbow pads. Look what we're seeing right now. Even the
Ex-
ladies are in there without all that protection that really
ri-
we probably needed. But I guess back then it may have been deemed as just being not cool. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I think it actually shows how things have changed, not only for athletes, but for athletes uh, taking care of themselves. I mean,
Yes.
take a look how different NFL players are now and the protections they have, and and the wrestlers now with the knee pads, and there was a lot of staph infections back then. Just rub your leg up against the mat, get a mat burn, and get a staph infection because the mat was not that clean. Now, if you've seen a guy bleed, a lot of times they will. If they, a lot of times, a couple spots, they'll have guys come out and scrub the mat, or they'll have a different mat they'll pull out. So it's different, and we've got doctors now. We've got physical therapists that travel with it. We've got a whole medical staff. There was no medical staff there back then, guaranteed.
By the way, I want to mention, you mentioned it in passing, but I know a lot of our listeners probably don't have much familiarity, hopefully, with something as serious as staph infection.
Hmm.
But as professional wrestling fans, we have heard of this guy had staph or that guy had staph. Like there's famous stories of even like Macho Man Randy Savage at WrestleMania 5 having a staph infection in his elbow. So he taped it up and went out and wrestled the biggest, most high profile, big money match of his entire career, main eventing against the incredible Hulk Hogan
Right.
at Trump Plaza in 1989. I mean, it broke every WrestleMania record at that point. It was a real high watermark for a long time to come. But the legacy is, hey, Randy worked that match with a staph infection. Staph, Tony, is no joke,
Mm.
according to the rumor and innuendo that's out there right now. And again, we're not his physicians, we don't have any insight, but there's a lot of whispers that the health troubles that Ben Askren has been suffering, which just resulted, and I don't know if you saw this, but over the weekend, his wife revealed that he received a double lung transplant. And I guess the staph infection had done such a number on him that he actually had holes in his lungs
Oh
from
God.
staph infection. Like
Oh
this was
God.
a major serious situation. So when you're saying, and we've all heard the story before that, hey, dirty mats, dirty
Right.
canvases,
Right.
that was a culprit because if a guy has some sort of a cut or laceration or anything like that on his back, and then there's going to be something on the canvas, something
Yep.
that might be living and growing and
Right.
breathing and all
Right.
that jazz. Man, it can really just fucking wreck your life. But I think we all just sort of say, oh yeah, this guy had staph and that guy had staph. Hey man, there are different varying types and degrees, and goodness gracious, you hear about a lung transplant. That's unbelievable.
A double lung transplant because of
Yeah,
staph
buddy.
infection. That's serious stuff right there, brother.
No doubt, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Staph infection is, and we even hear some of it today happen, but very few because precautions are taken. They even wipe down the ropes. Now, and then when I go in the gym and I see somebody wiping down uh, the machines after they set in them,
Yep.
I'm thinking, okay, enough. You're not going to get staph infection. So, but the whole world is different. I mean, and I know no COVID had something to do with this, but everybody is much more careful about their health now.
Yeah, I mean, I heard since COVID, it got so bad that you even started wearing condoms just around the house, not because you were hooking up or anything, just wanted to be safe.
That's not really true. I never wore a condom. Of course, it's kind of hard to get a condom.
What?
It's
Hang on,
kind
hang
of
on.
hard to get a condom on a softie.
You're saying you never wore a condom. I hope you're implying inside the house, or do you mean ever? There's never been a
I
prophylactic.
can't remember ever wearing a condom.
Are you being serious right now?
No, of course not.
I was fixing to say, God damn, I'm making that a shirt as fast as I can. I can't ever remember wearing a condom. Would be a shirt that would sell like crazy in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I just know it. It'd be a #1 seller there.
Why Myrtle Beach, South Carolina?
Well, it's like, it's where everybody doesn't wear condoms. It's been well
Oh, really?
established.
Okay, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. Listen, let's just phone a friend right now. Silva, hypothetically, did you ever wear a condom in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina?
Never.
See, told you, Tony. Neither you nor I nor Dave Silva have ever worn a condom in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I can't. I don't know if I've ever spent the night in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Doesn't mean you couldn't have worn a condom.
Well, I'm sure.
I've worn condoms in lots of towns I never spent the night in.
Yeah. Look at this. That's pretty cool. Ladies they're going to do it again.
By the way, they're going to go 20 minutes and 47 seconds.
Yeah. A couple of catapults back and forth. That's pretty inventive. Let's do something the guys are not doing. Why not?
The ring looks absolutely huge with these ladies too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Absolutely. This girl in here now, just wailing away on that arm. Just a wee little girl.
We hope everybody watching this or listening to this checked out JR's film Queen of the Ring. I know he had a hand in that with a lot of great AEW talent and stars like Camille and Tony Storm and others. But did you have a chance to see the Mildred Burke movie? I don't know that we ever talked about that. What'd you think?
Yeah, there are a lot of people that panned it. A lot of people in the business that panned it, but you know what? I liked it. I thought Jim Cornette did a great job.
Yeah.
As I guess he was the NWA commissioner back then, or president.
Sam Mushnick, I think.
Sam Mushnick he played, I guess. Yeah. I love what Tony Storm did. The part that she played. There's a couple of things that I didn't like. Like for instance, when Mildred first went to a wrestling match.
Oh yeah.
And she watched it, and the fans said, he's a heel, he's a babyface. Fans didn't know that back then.
No, they didn't. And if they did, they weren't saying that out loud.
Exactly. So that was like, that was the one thing that struck me. It was like, okay, enough. But other than that, I thought it was very, very good. And the girl that played Mildred Burke was beautiful and did a great job, I thought. So actually a lot prettier than Mildred herself. Have you seen Mildred's pictures?
But I know you were involved in a little bit of a low-key controversy surrounding the movie. I know after the movie's release, they had some folks sitting ringside during a pay-per-view, and you did an on-camera there. And I don't think that, the star of the movie really was able to adequately express herself. And I know some wrestling fans took umbrage with what she was saying, but, she was trying to be deferential and respectful. I just think, her choice of words may not have necessarily conveyed that. And I felt bad for her, Tony.
Yeah, I felt bad for her too. And I took a little heat for that. Some people thought that I should have stepped in and told her what the fuck she talking about. But I was just worried about getting to the next thing. I didn't give a damn about what she said. So she just, hey, actors,
if there was another movie out there to be made about a historical wrestling figure, obviously we're talking about the movie Queen of the Ring, based on the life of Mildred Burke. If there were going to be another movie subject, who deserves that treatment, do you think? What would be an interesting movie to you as a fan, Tony Schiavone?
I think it'd be the Harley Race story because of how tough a guy he really was. And how he was a champion, back in the day when the NWA was, really meant something, right? Really traveled around. That would interest me. I think, although I think that logically there's going to end up being a movie about Hulk Hogan. I thought there was going to be one at one time.
There was going to be, and then Hogan shut it down.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, apparently, I guess he had a deal with Netflix,
Uh-huh.
and they even had the guy who played Thor,
Right.
Mr. Hemsworth. He was going to play Hulk Hogan,
Right.
and there were other pretty substantial names involved, including the guy who wrote the Joker movie. So there was a lot of hype around it, and then I guess Scott Silver, who I think was the writer who did The Hangover and a lot of other things, I think there was a scene or two in there that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps Hulkster didn't love.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess Netflix accidentally breached the contract because they were supposed to send him a pretty substantial wire, and I think they missed it by a few days.
Well,
So when that wire didn't come through, it created an opportunity for Mr. Balea to unwind his agreement to do the Hulk Hogan doc. I guess not even a doc, really. It was more of a docudrama. They're trying to, add a little bit of color and flavor, I'm sure, to the story. And I don't know that he was necessarily comfortable with that. Again, I don't have any inside information. That's just the speculation, the rumor, and innuendo as to what happened with the Chris Hemsworth, aka Hulk Hogan project. I do agree, though, Tony, that eventually that movie will be made, and I think I can't wait to see it. I mean, we'll all watch it and try to poke holes in it as wrestling fans for sure. But I don't think they have to have Hogan's permission to make it, but because he, I guess backed out of an agreement here, I do wonder, out of deference, will they wait and make that movie once he passes away?
mm,
And I guess that's an interesting question for you, Tony. Not that they are, but if they were going to make a movie about your life, so there's going to be made available to the mainstream the story of Tony Schiavone's life, but you're not going to have control of it, Tony. Would you rather that something like that be done while you're living or after you've moved on?
oh, I think after I moved on,
I think so too.
I don't want to go through any of that bullshit about what is should be in your movie, what shouldn't be in your movie, and who knows, it may be an unflattering movie, and then my grandchildren would have to suffer for it. But I'll be dead, so what would I care?
Well, listen, I mean, you're saying it would be unflattering. I mean, I got to think one of the more critical points in when you're talking about a movie about the life of Tony Schiavone. I mean, really one of the main plot points would be that you never wore a condom, don't you think?
No, I don't think they have anything to do with it.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean, by the time
I think if you were a writer, it would have a big part.
well,
But I
hang on
think,
now, Tony.
yeah,
By the way,
I think logically, and most of us are thinking logically, and you are not right now, is that that would have nothing to do with it.
I totally disagree. I mean, by the time we're introduced to the seventh child actor to represent the Schiavone household, I do think someone in the theater would say so. They would see like where, and then we welcomed our seventh child. I think someone in the arena, someone in the movie theater, would either throw popcorn
Mhm.
or go, "Jesus Christ, get this man a condom!
Okay,
Why
you,
can't he just back up just 2 inches?"
yeah,
Jesus.
yeah. I think that that movie should be made for Mark Briscoe. Uh, so because he has
Well,
9
I'll tell you
children.
this, Mark Briscoe, I don't know if anybody listening to this is aware. That man is scared of no man. That man has never backed down from a fight. As a matter of fact, he's never canceled a fight. He's never no showed a fight. He's never pulled out of a fight. I have it on good opinion. Mark Briscoe don't pull out of nothing. He's there
You may
every
be
time.
right. You may be right. But you know what? He's still one of the best.
Dude, I mean, you talk about a character. I was watching Dynamite last week with a couple of friends,
Uh-huh.
and one of my friends was really not a wrestling fan. The other friend was, and so we're watching all together. And when Mark Briscoe came to the ring, I don't know why, but my non wrestling friend kind of chuckled and laughed and said, "I don't know who this guy is, but I like him already. He seems like a character."
Yeah,
And I'm like, boy, he nailed it. Like that came through the screen right away for him.
absolutely it did. There's 1, 2, 3. And you know what? The match is over, I believe.
We've got our winners.
Yeah. And look at the
Yes.
fans loving it, man. Wrestle something, whisper something to the referee. Fan came up, shook her hand.
How great is that?
That is some great stuff.
Coming up next, we're going to be watching Pedro Morales, who,
Wow.
believe it or not, is the WWWF World Champion. And he's going to be taking on George the Animal Steele. Of course, George Steele is going to look like we all remember here from the golden era of the WWF, but he's a much different character. He's not the crazy buffoon who eats turnbuckles here. He's the animal, which I guess means he's just mean.
Right.
And I think on the way to the ring here, we're actually going to hear him, if you're listening to the audio, say something like, "What the hell's the wrong with you?" I don't know why, but "What the hell's wrong with you?" That actually would get over as a catchphrase in 2025, don't you think?
Boy, would it ever. My favorite George at the Animal Steel line was when they tried to remember they put a colander on his head in the
Yep.
back in the TNT days, Tuesday Night Titans, and they turned the juice up and he said, "How now, brown cow?" Just that was freaking comedy.
You know, he did a shoot interview like over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And in that shoot interview, it was discussed that the whole animal thing was originally just a rib on Vince. They're taping promos and he was just being goofy and cutting up, trying to pop the boys. And I guess Vince saw this, liked it, and that became the new persona for George the Animal Steele.
Well, you can see in the ring right now that he's nothing like, with the exception of the look of the face, he's nothing like the demeanor of George the Animal Steel that we remember, because he kind of came to the ring slumped over, you know. And here comes a big deal. And I say here comes a big deal because Pedro Morales won the WWWF championship in this arena, defeated Ivan Koloff for it. And Pedro was a big deal because of the big Puerto Rican population there was in New York City. So he was a big time fan favorite, and the Puerto Rican population loved him. And I'm looking forward to seeing this match.
Tony, I was fortunate enough to be able to watch a UFC, gosh, more than a decade ago with Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster. May he rest in peace. And Kevin was watching the presentation of the pay per view. It was in my downstairs den. And he said something like, "You know, Dana White is the new Vince Sr." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Do you see all these flags? That's not been a thing in professional wrestling since Vince's father." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, you really think about all the different champions." And he ran through that Vince Sr. promoted based on what your ethnicity was. Like he had a Bruno Sammartino for the Italian fans, and he had a Pedro Morales for the Puerto Rican fans, and he had a Bob Backlund for the Catholics, and so as he's running through all this, even saying that Hulk Hogan was supposed to be an Irish gimmick, and I remember hearing that, but I don't know that it really clicked for me that because New York has often been described as being like the melting pot of America, you do have a really diverse audience and crowd. So why not litter it with, favorites from every walk of life? And I guess that's really what Vince's father was trying to do. And of course, I mean, you take a look at like just the style of the ring gear. We're seeing a lot of solid colors. We're not seeing the innovations or fanciness that we see now. It's just, hey, I got plain red trunks and plain red boots, that sort of thing. I'm saying all that to say Vince Jr., I think, took maybe what his dad did as far as just social backgrounds, and he expanded it with these over the top characters. And, he wanted everyone to, for lack of a better word, have a gimmick. So you couldn't just come in as Coco Ware. You had to be Coco Beware, and now you've got a bird. And you couldn't just be Jake Roberts. You had to be Jake the Snake Roberts, and you had to have neon tights and python lace up boots, and you had to carry a snake to the ring. And Jake, prior to that, scared of snakes, never wore snakeskin boots, didn't wear the neon tights. So Vince certainly had a different approach to the way to market But it's interesting to think that once upon a time, you didn't necessarily need these over the top characters, at least in Vince's father's eyes. You just needed to say, "Oh, this is a good Polish boy. This is the Hammer. This is Ivan Putski," and
Right.
that was enough in New
Right.
York City to sell some tickets.
Sure was. And of course, in New York City is where they made their money big time.
No doubt.
They sold out every seat all the time. George the Animal Steel has a foreign object here, and Pedro's doing a hell of a job of selling it.
Tony, when you got into wrestling, we'll call
Uh-huh.
it 1974. And again, I'm not saying that you're in the business. I'm saying your fandom is maybe peaked. So when you're a couple years in, we'll call it mid to late 70s. When you think about famous wrestling arenas, like these days, people would certainly throw out things like Madison Square Garden. Certainly, the Sportatorium comes to mind, the ECW Arena, the Nashville Fairgrounds, the Mid South Coliseum. But when you were thinking of your wrestling fandom, say mid 70s, Madison Square Garden was probably the clear and away number one. How
Right.
would you round out the rest of the Mount Rushmore? What would the second, third, and fourth most famous buildings look like in no particular order?
I think number two would be the Greensboro Coliseum for me.
Even in the mid 70s?
Yeah,
Wow.
very,
Okay.
very much so.
Okay.
Greensboro Coliseum was Jim Crockett's Madison Square Garden.
Even prior to Starrcade.
Oh, absolutely, it was.
Okay. I
I
didn't know
remember.
that. I'm learning.
I remember one time they brought in the WWWF Tag Team Champions Jesse the Body Ventura and Adrian Adonis,
How about that?
and they brought in Nick Bockwinkel. They had like the NWA Championship match. They had an AEW Championship match, and I think they had the WWF Championship match, but I can't remember who. I remember Bockwinkel came in, and I remember Harley Race was there, but there was another one too. They would bring in superstar Billy Graham up from Florida. They would bring Dusty Rhodes in from Florida. And so it was the Madison Square Garden of no doubt because it was the biggest arena in the Mid Atlantic by far. Uh, Charlotte was big for them too, but I never thought of Charlotte as big. I always knew that the Mid South Coliseum was a big deal, and so I thought about that as being. And there was something about, maybe I'm wrong, but there was something about the Miami Beach Convention Center to me was a big deal. I don't know why. And I don't know if it was the biggest arena they had during Championship Wrestling from Florida. I don't know if the biggest arena or not that they had back then, but it was a big deal to me from what I can remember. Coach Rosie said Cow Palace, no doubt. Cow Palace. And as ignorant as I was back then, I had no idea how big that Arena Mexico was. But boy, do I know now how big it is. I mean, it's got to be don't you think, one of the top 5 all time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are big. But yeah, to me, Madison Square Garden was the biggest, even though I wasn't a WWF fan, but we knew about the legend of Madison Square Garden. And but to me, the Greensboro Coliseum was a big deal. A big deal. I like how George Steele, man, working heel here, just doing a great job. So let's see. I think we got Chief Jay Strongbow still to come.
That's right. Yeah. Still to
Yeah.
come. We've
Yeah.
got a couple of different matches here, believe it
Oh,
or
really?
not. We
Okay.
got Chief Jay Strongbow versus Mr. Fuji.
Wow.
How great
Okay.
is that?
How about
And
that?
then match number 8 is Haystacks Calhoun versus
Wow.
Moondog Maine. So we've got a Moondog versus Haystacks coming
Hmm.
in last.
Yeah.
I hesitate to call that the main event. I do believe we're actually watching the main event right
Here
now.
we are. Again, what they did back then, this the main event was right before intermission. And that got you fired up about coming back, and tickets will be on sale for our next event at Madison Square Garden. Wow, we just saw a great match. We're going to come back. And sometimes they would sell tickets. Many times they would sell most of their house without even knowing who was on the card because they just enjoyed coming out to see what was there.
Let's do some questions. We've got a live studio audience. Greatly appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we hope that you'll make plans to join us next week here. We record Monday night live immediately following Monday Night Raw. Of course, I know it was a special start time this week, but we were still consistent. 9 Central, 10 Eastern, a little Monday late night action for you. It happens live at WHW Monday over on Patreon. Go right now to patreon.com/WHW Monday, or of course, adfreeshows.com. Our first question today from our live studio audience, Tony, comes from Bad Money Slim, who says, ask Tony, your Batman hoodie needs a WCW Thunder logo on the back.
I
What do you think
doubt it.
about that?
I don't want a Thunder logo anywhere near me. Thank you very much, though, Bad Money, for saying that.
You're anti-Thunder?
Yeah.
If you were to rank your favorite WCW shows, I'm not talking about pay-per-views, I'm saying actual television shows, because you did Saturday Night, you did Nitro, you did Thunder, but you also did the syndicated programs. What were your favorites? Like, is Nitro your favorite, or did you enjoy Saturday Night or something else better?
Well, I think in the WCW era, Nitro would have to be your favorite because that's where everything happened. Um, my
What was more
favorite, my
fun?
favorite, my favorite show was the old studio show before Center Stage, and
Okay, that's where I was getting to.
yeah,
So, I was going to ask, did you prefer, we'll call it the 605 show, and I
yes,
mean that to mean JCP, or WCW Monday Nitro? I know Nitro enjoyed greater success,
of course,
but you were probably more impressionable and less, I don't know, jaded
yeah,
towards professional wrestling, might be the right phrase, in the
yeah.
JCP era. Which of those would have been your preference?
Oh, the 605 studio show would have been my preference
What was
because
that based on? Just your youth in the business,
yeah,
the size of the building? I
no.
mean, what changed?
What changed was I went from being a big time wrestling fan to just a couple of years later I was on TBS, and that was not lost on me. And I've talked about this a lot of times that here I'm holding the microphone for Nature Boy Ric Flair,
Right.
and that's to me it was just absolutely great. I noticed something here that I thought was very cool. The match is over now, but George Animal Steel went down, and you could see that he was cutting his forehead.
Oh yeah.
The referee did a hell of a job by kneeling next to George and putting his knee up against George's face so nobody could see him doing it. I thought that was so great. It
You
just
got to
was,
be sure to tell some of the boys and girls in the wrestling business these days about that spot.
yeah. Well, our camera is a little bit more intrusive than they were back in the 70s. You know,
Every little bit helps, though.
you're not kidding. It does.
Jason Taylor, who's with us here live, shout out to him. So, speaking of NASCAR, has Tony watched the new Earnhardt documentary series on Prime? I don't know if you've seen it yet, Tony, but I would
Oh,
say, as someone who was not a NASCAR fan,
hmm,
I watched it, and I happened to be fortunate enough to watch it with a big Earnhardt fan,
hmm,
and just getting more context about this guy that I had heard so much about. I mean, we've all known growing up in the South, Tony, over the last, 35 years, it's been impossible to not see Dale Earnhardt's name and likeness everywhere.
right.
And he is sort of, as I understand it, as a NASCAR fan, he's almost like their Michael Jordan, if you will.
Sure.
That's the way he's regarded and beloved and all that sort of thing. So I knew that, but that was really the extent of my knowledge. And I knew that he passed away in Talladega in February of 2001. But actually seeing
It
the
was Daytona,
documentary,
right? It was
oh
Daytona, right?
yes, you're right, you're right,
Yeah.
you're right. What an incredible documentary series, Tony. I highly recommend you check it out. It's on Prime. I think you dig it.
Yeah, I think I would too. Did they talk about, and this is the problem, and I don't want to make this a NASCAR podcast, obviously. Did they talk about how NASCAR had kind of alienated the South?
They didn't spend a ton of time on that because he
Yeah,
passed away.
right. But
But I mean, they certainly talked about how, it grew in popularity and exploded, and that anytime you hear of something that's in the South, quote unquote, exploding in popularity, it's Eric Bischoff speak for, we're going to Chicago.
yes, right.
Yeah.
Or Las Vegas.
Yes. Or
Yeah,
New York.
or New York, absolutely. Because Eric was dead set against anything that had a Southern ring to it.
Well, and
Uh,
by the way, I do think he's gotten a bad rap on that. And I want to explain that.
really?
And obviously, I'm saying that as a hillbilly, but I am saying I do think that a criticism about the WWF or about WCW from a WWF perspective was that the WWF was already positioned in the marketplace as quote unquote the big time. So you had WCW sucking hind teat, as we say here in the South. And I do believe that in order to sort of categorize them as being major league, that you would need to overcome preemptively objections like, oh, well, it's a regional promotion.
Yeah.
And I know that for certain, once upon a time, Crockett viewed, his business as a territory, and
Right.
his territory was, of course, the South.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I get that. But I think it was necessary to appeal to Madison Avenue. I'm not talking about the actual fan base, but I'm saying the agency business. Like, I do think that mattered. I mean, it certainly mattered to Vince. I mean, Vince tried to fire JR over and over and over again because he was too Southern sounding. So it is a thing that people are conscious of. And whether or not it's right is secondary to, is it real? Is the criticism real?
Right. I can only remember this. I can remember Eric saying a few things about how Southern JR's voice was. I know that when I worked for Vince in '89, that Bruce would come to me and say, Vince thinks you're sounding too Southern. I'm thinking, what the hell? I worked pretty hard to get rid of that. Uh, but I also remember, and this is the one thing I remember more than anything else. We had a show coming up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It may have been that double cage match, and I said we're going to the Lawrence. Well, I was running down the shows, and I said we're going to the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And Eric got on me. He said, "Don't say that." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "No one cares at the Lawrence Joel Veterans Memorial Coliseum." Oh, I said it was the home of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. And he said, "No one cares it's for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. That's a Southern connotation." And I remember thinking, what is wrong about promoting venues? What is wrong about saying because of anybody who's going to come to Winston-Salem knows Wake Forest, blah, at the Carolinas, blah, blah, blah. But I remember him saying that. I remember thinking when he said that, boy, he is so dead set against the South that he even got on me for saying something like that, which to me was ridiculous. So that's what makes me think that Eric was really against the Southern connotations that we had. And I get it. I mean, he did a lot to pull us out of that. Hulk Hogan was now with us. The Macho Man Randy Savage was now with us. Mean Gene, Bobby the Brain Heenan. So
Bryant's with us here live, and he wants to know, having been a NASCAR fan, what tracks have you been to, and which was your favorite?
I've been to Martinsville Speedway. I've been to Talladega. I've been to Darlington. I've been to Charlotte, and I've been to Rockingham when they ran Rockingham. And my favorite always was Charlotte Motor Speedway. Those are the ones I've been to.
Aaron Sheen wants to know, what year did you decide you wanted to get into the business, and was commentator always the dream?
Wrestling commentator was not always a dream. Baseball announcer was always a dream. See that lady rubbing the mat down?
Yep.
Grandma out there rubbing the mat down. Make sure it's clean, no staph infection. She went right from her ringside seat to do that. So anyway, baseball announcer was always a dream. Although I loved oh, she's white. She's brushing off Mr. Fuji's powder. I got it now. Although I was a big wrestling fan and I had a chance to do wrestling, and I wanted to do more of it because it didn't take long for me to make more money part-time wrestling than it was full-time doing minor league baseball. So, and then I started having kids, and how can you turn down when Jimmy Crockett tells you, I want you to do wrestling on TBS, right? I mean, I remember the day very, very clearly. So, and I was doing
Aaron
baseball at
Sheen,
the time.
my bad. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Look at,
Yeah, that's pretty fun to see the head scissors by Chief Jay Strongbow from the outside to the
isn't it?
inside here with Mr. Fuji. He's done two sides. Will he hit a third side? See
Yeah.
if he can snatch Fuji in
There's
here.
okay.
Aaron
Fuji's
Sheen says, now that AEW has ran Australia, Any chance we can get a pay-per-view in Australia? Tony, I know you're personally responsible for booking buildings and all the routing, negotiating with the venues.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you just give Aaron Sheen what he wants? Why can't you just commit to an Australian pay-per-view?
Because it's hard just to make a commitment on a kind of an odd Monday night when there's so many things you have to consider. But I can tell you right now that there's no doubt we're going to go back to Australia because that was a success. Financially, I don't know how much of a success it was because it's very, very expensive to send everybody over. But we had a tremendous crowd. We were well received. It was so much fun. I don't think there's any doubt we're going back. And hey, why not a pay-per-view in Australia? Although we'd have the times would have to line up, right?
Aaron Sheen has a great question. He says, besides Omega versus Okada, what's a sleeper match on the All In Texas card that we should get excited about?
Mercedes Moné and Tony Storm.
Yes, sir.
I think it's the two biggest stars that we have, two of the biggest women stars in the world, and I think they're going to have a great match.
And by the way, it's not like Hangman and John Moxley aren't going to pull out all the stops.
Of course. But he was, and that's really not a sleeper match. I think we all know what that's going to be. That's going to be great.
Hypothetically, you think there's any blood in that one, Tony?
Yeah, hypothetically, I think it'll be a lot of blood.
I like when you say blood.
Blood.
Bryant says, which novelty match got you more excited to watch? Ladies wrestling or little people wrestling?
I haven't seen many little people matches.
Oh, you're missing out. Little people wrestling is way better than women's wrestling.
I did see a little people mixed tag match years ago from the old AWA where Bobby Heenan wrestled a little person. And that was freaking hilarious. The way Heenan bumped for that little guy. Hilarious. But I haven't seen many. I saw Comanito, in Lucha Libre.
Boy, interesting question here from Aaron Sheen, and it's going to come off. It reads like it's negative, and I don't think he means it that way. But he writes, how much damage do you think Medusa did to women's wrestling in Vince's mind when she went to WCW? It was years where there was no women's wrestling in the WWF. So what he's trying to remind us of is we're seeing women's wrestling here, 2 out of 3 falls in a tag match in 73. So Vince's father certainly had an appreciation for women's wrestling. And we would see even when Vince first went national, he would make sure to include Cyndi Lauper in a lot of scenarios with
Wendy Richter.
That's right. Wendy Richter was his, once upon a time, supposed to be like the female equivalent of Hulk Hogan. And I guess she was unhappy with her pay. Famously, or rather infamously, Fabulous Moolah double-crossed her as the Spider Lady. That was the original screw job long before Montreal. And that was kind of all she wrote for Wendy Richter in pro wrestling. And we didn't see much more. I mean, there would be little glimpses of a Sherry Martel or a Jumping Bomb Angels in, say, 88. But as we rolled around by like 1990, the only women's wrestling you would see would be like even a mixed tag. Right. So maybe Dusty and Sapphire against Sherry and Randy Savage. But we didn't really see a push for women's wrestling until Vince hired Alundra Blaze. Of course, we know her as Medusa, but he really pushed her. And it felt like, she had an opportunity to do some cool stuff with the WWF, but it happened to come along at a down period in the business. So as a cost-cutting measure, they just dissolved the entire league. And respectfully, it's not like there was a huge talent pool for Vince to pull from back then. And we would see WCW try with Medusa, but even when they brought Medusa over, it felt like it was Medusa and others. At times, I know we had fabulous matches with her and Akira Hokuto and all that, but it's not like you could say, oh, Medusa had 6 great opponents in WCW, because she just didn't.
Right.
But of course, the thing that Medusa is now most known for, and I don't even think this is fair for Medusa, she's known for throwing Vince's belt in the trash can on Nitro.
Right.
And I guess what Aaron is suggesting here is, you knew Vince once upon a time. Do you think Vince decided at that point, hey, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Like
Mm.
I don't think I'm going to even dabble with women's wrestling again.
I don't think that at all. I think Vince was the type of guy who would have looked at that and said, okay, if that's the way they want to play it, we're going to up the ante. And I just think that had nothing to do with it at all. I just think that Vince thought that maybe, and Vince looked at that Medusa didn't have the competition, that her moving over to us really didn't pan out, with the exception of we were able to show them throwing the belt, her throwing the belt in the trash can. But I don't think it had an impact at all on his business. I think he looked at us saying, well, there's not much for Medusa to do. We're just going to step out of it for a little while. That's my thought on that. And we got
Watching a pretty fun match here with Fuji and Strongbow. These, of course, are two WWF strongholds. We know by the 1980s, Fuji's going to be one of the more notorious heel managers here in Vince's national expansion. But when you think about Chief Jay Strongbow, I, as a wrestling fan born in 1981, I really don't even think of his in ring. I mean, all the stories I hear about Chief Jay Strongbow are about his role behind the scenes in the
Right.
WWF when he was one of the agents. What was
Right.
your experience like with Chief Jay Strongbow as an agent for the WWF?
He was really a good guy, really very friendly, and very old school. He and I talked a lot about how wrestling had changed from when he was in the ring, and I'm very surprised because, to be honest with you, this may be the first Jay Strongbow match I've ever watched, but he moves quite well.
Oh yeah,
And being from Mid Atlantic back then, I always thought, come on, there's Wahoo McDaniel. He's the real Indian wrestler, not Jay Strongbow. And this is a pretty
I mean, it's a
painful
titty
hold
twister.
going on right now.
This is a titty twister, right?
Yeah, he's got the pecs.
This is, I think, it's called according to 411 fuck cheat, as you call it.
Yep.
Fuji reapplies the double atomic purple nurple.
Oh,
And then Strongbow would break free.
yeah.
And then Fuji would reapply the double atomic purple nurple.
Right.
And then Strongbow would break free. And then Fuji would reapply the double atomic purple nurple. And
Yeah.
I wonder if he's gonna break free.
Well, it has to look like it hurts. Or it's been double applied. Doesn't it? I mean, he's got the grips in there, man. I mean, it's like,
But I mean, why wouldn't you just lift your arms up and poke him in his eye?
because it hurts so bad you can't move your arms.
So you just let him twist your tits off?
Yeah. Are you trying to inject logic in a wrestling hold?
I'm just saying this is up there. I mean, this might actually be dumber what I'm watching right now than the claw.
I don't think it's.
You think the claw's dumber?
Yeah.
Great. I can't wait for you to tell Kevin Von Erich that on Saturday, July 12th at Starrcast, STARRCAST.com. Kevin Von Erich will be there. We're going to get him to put his devastating claw hold right on Tony Schiavone.
Yep.
If we can't do it on stage, we'll just have him jump the barricade there at the stadium show in Globe Life and just squeeze the shit out of your head. Just pop you like a damn pimple.
Let me know, because I have my razor blade there and I'll start to bleed underneath the hand. And then I'll say, I've always knew it was a powerful move. Conrad Thompson's a fucking liar.
Oh, God. So you're going to blade for the claw?
Yeah.
Hey, if you were going to branch out and try something new in wrestling, that is like the last thing you've not done, right? You've taken bumps, but you've never bladed, right?
No, I never have.
Man, I hope somebody clips this up and sends it to Tony, because I know he really values firsts in pro wrestling. And if we could ever be witness to the first ever meeting between Tony Schiavone's virgin forehead skin and a razor.
That's not going to happen. I'm not going to blade.
Well, you never know.
Look how smooth this forehead is for an old man.
That's why people won't see it coming. They won't be ready for it.
Okay.
And
well, I guess you could blade up here, right, and have it run down your forehead.
Absolutely. Listen, if you're not sure what to do, just get Moxley out there. He'll show you.
Yeah, boy. I'm sure he will.
I mean, at this point, you got to think Moxley's like Edward Scissorhands, right?
Yeah,
Just
right. Yes, without the sound effects, I got to believe he's like it. Yeah. Any more questions?
Well, I mean, listen, if you're
You
not going to
whistling, you
blade,
whistling for Ginger to come, or baby?
no, I wish Ginger and Baby were here.
Look at the
No,
look at the old Dobby Pookie Doodle here.
oh, look at
He's
that, nothing happening, son of a bitch.
hey Dobby, you want to go chase the rabbits? He goes out at night real late, and his sister and they chase rabbits in the backyard. God, nothing like a dog.
Look at Fuji climbing to the top rope backwards here. Big back bump.
Yeah, this is
Uh-oh.
they're doing some unique stuff here.
Dude, how about the little rain dance coming back here? Bam. Two big lifted knees. Oh, what was that? He went crisscross applesauce on him and whooped his ass.
Sure did.
I mean, you could just tell looking at Chief Jay Strongbow here. He knew where peyote could be gotten. You know, like he knew where there was peyote.
Yeah.
He's the peyote plug of the WWWF.
Well, he's really an Italian guy. You knew that, don't you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I was just saying, even more reason for him to know where the peyote was.
Yeah.
Coming up next, Moondog is another bearded blonde guy. Of course, he's going to be an untamed hippie. And this is Moondog Maine. And then we're going to see Haystacks come out. And this is going to be quite the presentation. If you've never seen Haystacks before, you're in for a treat.
I'm not so sure I've ever seen Haystacks before.
Here we go, Bubba.
I've seen pictures, but I'm never saw Moondog just raking them teeth across that top rope there. Kind of looks like a blonde Jesus there, doesn't he?
A blonde Jesus.
Look at that still that we're showing here. Looking up for his father up in heaven. Type thing.
We also know this guy as the original one-man gang, the Blonde Bomber, Mad Dog Maine. He was born in 1944 in Fairfax, California.
Okay.
And he passed away at just 33 years old.
God.
In August of 78. So he's got 5 years left on this earth as we're seeing him here.
Oh. Hey, watch any great 80s movies before this match gets underway recently?
You know, it's funny you say that. Just this past week, I saw for the first time ever. I've never seen it before. I don't know how I missed it. What About Bob?
Oh,
With Richard Dreyfuss and Bill Murray. I'd never seen it.
okay.
I did see it and I enjoyed it.
I watched off of the suggestion by Jason Taylor, The Wraith.
Oh, yeah. What did you think of that?
I loved it. I loved it. And then it got me so into movies that I watched the first Police Academy movie from '84. Another great 80s movie. So
A real classic.
yeah. Really. Look at
Wraith is a cult classic, but
yeah.
This is me chasing Bruce Pritchard to do a podcast back in 2016.
Haystacks, buddy. Bringing some shit with him to the ring here. Is that a chain or is that a whip? What the hell's he got?
I think it's his dental floss.
It's his chain his dental floss.
I mean, when you take a look at Moondog Maine here, I want to remind you, my man's 28.
Holy shit.
He passed away 5 years later at 33. So this is 28-year-old Moondog Maine who looks like he's every bit of 50.
Absolutely. It looks like the wrestling business and the wrestling road has been difficult for him.
Maybe he wasn't eating a lot of preservatives back then.
Probably not.
Well, I'll tell you what, we could all be eating a little better if we had a little more cash, and we can help you with that. Let's save with Conrad.com. All right, folks, take a look at this chart right here. What we're seeing is that The percentage of disposable income that's really just going for debt service here in America is like 11.28%. It's been climbing ever since the pandemic. And what that means is folks are spending a lot of the money they earn today to pay for bills they ran up way back when. Is that you? Are you carrying credit card balances right now? Well, I want to encourage you, stop taking out new debt at really crazy high interest rates. And instead, let's start using some of that equity in your house. Someone who did exactly that was my man, Justin. He's an auto sales manager there in Knoxville, Tennessee. He was looking to do a little home remodeling, and he kind of liked the idea of getting rid of some debt. Well, check out these before and after photos. Justin actually used the equity in his house to turn his home into his dream home. Yeah. And on top of that, we paid off all of his debt, and he even got to skip 2 house payments. Like right now, if you haven't already, you don't have to make your July or your August payment. You're done until September 1st. And come September 1st, you could be saving a boatload of cash. Just ask Justin. He upgraded his house. He got rid of his credit card debt, and he's going to save $1,000 a month. How do you make your house nicer and get rid of your credit card debt and save money? It's easy. You go to savewithconrad.com. You let my team run the numbers for you for free, just like we did for Justin. By the way, there's no cost, there's no obligation. And if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. So what are you waiting for? It costs nothing to look. And by the way, if you've been looking to see what rates are doing, let me put your peace of mind in play here. We've got a year 3 guarantee here at savewithconrad.com. All the experts seem to agree that interest rates are going to improve over the next few years. Well, I don't want you to miss out on that. So here's an opportunity for you to go ahead and start saving as much money as possible right now, but not waste money later. When interest rates improve, we'll throw you another refi without charging you a whole new set of lender fees. So you're going to save on closing costs later, but you'll start saving money today at savewithconrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender. And again, you don't need perfect credit. So even if you've had some troubles in the past, you need a plan. We want to be your mortgage advisor for life. Give me a shout at savewithconrad.com. Tony, we're live here watching Haystacks Calhoun take Moondog Maine to the woodshed. And I think Andre is a little shocked. Tony, you've never called a little person match, but I guess that makes sense. That never really happened in JCP or WCW, did it?
No, it didn't. I guess the only little person that I've known is Dylan, right?
Yep, Hornswoggle.
Swoggle. And I don't think I ever called one of his matches. So, no, it never did happen. Not at all.
Coach Keith Morrison has a deep cut for you. He says, Tony, I've never heard what you thought about Rich Landrum. Did you ever meet him? And was he still with the company when you started? Rich Landrum was one of the announcers for the Mid-Atlantic territory for Jim Crockett Promotions. I'm sure you guys were in the company at the same time, right?
No, we weren't. He had moved on. He was the voice of Worldwide Wrestling, and Bob Caudle and David Crockett did Mid-Atlantic. Rich did it by himself, and I never met him, and he was not with the company. I do know that I had read somewhere that that he said Tony Schiavone hates wrestling, and I'm thinking, where the fuck did he get that? Oh,
he told me that personally.
Yeah, yeah, he probably
Charlotte.
got it from 411 Fuck Sheet. But I never met him, and I would like to, because he's part of my fandom. He really is. He was great voice.
Tony, I know that you
Go
I
ahead.
know that you're defending yourself.
Okay.
But for years you did block anybody on Twitter who even mentioned wrestling to you. So it is a logical conclusion to jump to.
I guess it
that you
is.
didn't like wrestling.
But it's not that I didn't like wrestling. It's that I wanted to move on.
No, I get that, but you could see how that would be perceived by hardcore wrestling fans.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
I'm saying all that to say, all due respect to Rich Landrum, is if he didn't know you, he wouldn't know any better. He would just hear from wrestling fans at conventions and things.
Yeah.
Oh, I liked you so much better than that Tony Schiavone. He blocked me on Twitter. Well, if you hear that enough, then you got to be like, man, he just doesn't like wrestling.
I don't think I ever blocked wrestling fans on Twitter. I think I blocked trolls on Twitter. People who had bad things to say about me in the business, but I don't think I ever blocked a wrestling fan. I just remember trying to talk about baseball on Twitter, right? Because I was in baseball, and none of the fans wanted to talk about it. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, shit. Remember when you were a wrestling announcer? So I don't remember blocking any of them. I remember blocking the shitheads, which is easy to do. Haystacks here is not doing much moving, is he? He's just kind of.
Well, he's 500 pounds, Tony.
Well, you just never know what a 500-pounder can do.
Well, I think we're seeing what they can do. Hey, I bring this up about you and Twitter because I think even now you have negative connotations towards two phrases that wrestling fans don't look at negatively. Butts and seats,
Uh-huh.
I think you felt like was a personal attack on you and it was a low light in your career.
Right.
And that may be the way you felt about it, but it is an iconic line in your
Sure.
career. And wrestling fans knew that wasn't really Tony Schiavone saying that. That was somebody in his ear.
Mhm.
But secondly to that, greatest night in the history of our great sport. I know
Right.
people used to really have a lot of fun with you with that.
Mhm.
But even I still don't perceive it as being, oh, they're making fun of me. No, I think they're celebrating your career because, hey, that's what they remember you for. Like,
I get that, but those happened at a time in my career when I didn't like what I was doing.
I got you.
I didn't like wrestling. So to me, those harken me back to those bad old days. That's all.
I got you.
And but anyway, I do appreciate the people remembering. And listen, Conrad, I am astounded each and every time I go out to the arena and I get the cheers that I get. I am. I'm amazed. And there are smatterings of boos in there, and I get that. I understand, but mostly it's cheers, chanting my name. They sang my name at the first show in Wembley, which blew me fucking away. So that's never lost on me about how I've been welcomed back to pro wrestling after all these years, 18 years away from wrestling. How about that? I was with some people from working from Warner Brothers, TNT this weekend when we were doing the race, and they said, "You've been doing wrestling since 1983?" And I said, "Kinda." "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, there's 18 years I didn't do it." And I said, "We celebrated back on the 6th of April this year on the pay-per-view. We celebrated my 40th year, but it was not my 40th year in the business. It was 40 years from the time I had first been seen on TBS. So it's been a long time, but overall it's been great, man."
And so was tonight. What a great time it was watching professional wrestling from 1973. Tony, I had a blast today, but right now it looks like it's about that time.
And coming to the ring is Moondog Conrad Thompson, and he's going to face Haystack Silva. Haystack's going to do the belly bump. Oh, and he's going to do the ass drop right across the face of Conrad. He raised up his left leg. What is that sound? Is it thunder? No, Dave just shit on the face of Conrad. Wouldn't we all like to do that? And we're desperately out of time. We'll see you next week on What Happened When. We come to you each and every Monday exclusively and ad-free on
Patreon, patreon.com/WHW Monday. And of course, adfreeshows.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, The first week is completely free at freeshows.com.